Hey everybody, Mark again here, Weather Channel Live. This is your evening edition for these hurricanes, tropical storms that's going on, so I figured we needed an update. This is for August 20th. All the models have updated, and I did do a new update on my main channel, Weather Channel Plus. I'll put a link right here. Make sure you check that out, because I did do all the impacts for the winds, the cells, as far as the damages of the minimum. So it's all showing hurricane and a lot of strength. Now this right here is the model from the WSV3. It does have it categorized as a as a tropical storm until it gets towards Florida. Then it will be a Cat 1 hurricane. I'm running a model for you, and I'm going to show you how the strength and intensity does stay strong all through this evening. As it grows through these next couple of days, and it will stay a hurricane. It's not going to downgrade like some people have been talking about. I will show you. So God bless every single one of you. I hope you're having a great day through all this. I know people's kind of stressed out. There's a lot going on. So let's get over to the Weather Channel, have the real meteorologists tell you themselves that this is going to be a hurricane. I'm going to show you right after what's going on.
There are a lot of questions about both of these. There's uncertainties that come with the forecast, of course, here. But one of the things that we're looking right now, the possibility of intensification over the next several days. And we're going to break it all down for you. But let's take a look at 13 first, Alex, because this one right now forecast to be the strongest and could threaten the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, maybe even Florida.
People go, well, wait, why is 13 farther away and 14 looks, it's just based on at what point they were designated. So this one designated first a tropical depression. So 13 is the number. 35 mile per hour winds right now. It is still to the west of the Lesser Antilles, but as Mike mentioned, going to be moving closer to those Caribbean islands. So we've got a lot of locations under tropical storm watches. We're looking at Anguilla and St. Martin, St. Bart's, as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, also under that tropical storm watch. Where is this right now? Well, you can see Guadeloupe and Barbados. So this is off to the west. Again, a better organization today than what we've seen over the past few days. And so that allowed them to finally pull the trigger and say, all right, we've got this tropical depression on our hands, and we anticipate that it will strengthen in the days to come. So by late Saturday, late Sunday, moving through portions of the Caribbean, National Hurricane Center forecasting tropical storm to a strong tropical storm by late Sunday. Now we get into Monday, and Category 1 hurricane is the forecast as this approaches portions of South Florida by later Monday. So we could be looking at a landfall for South Florida, the Keys, Miami, all within the cone. In fact, most of Florida in the cone as we anticipate that turn to the north and west. So a lot of the state could be affected by this possible Category 1 hurricane. I don't want you to get caught up in the forecast numbers, though, and think, okay, the forecast is now, it'll always be for a Category 1. That could change in the coming days. So very important, if you live in the forecast cone, I want you to stick with us. At least check in, day by day. You don't have to watch it all day. I mean, we'd like that, but make sure you are watching, because I don't want you to go to bed tonight and go, okay, Category 1 hurricane coming on Monday. Things can really change. Moving forward, though, we think the arrival time of those tropical storm force winds could be by midday on Monday. So again, at least right now, get in your brain that, okay, we've got impacts coming on Monday. What the extent of those impacts will be, still a little uncertain. But we're going to get more data on this. We've got a flight today at 4 o'clock with the hurricane hunters, another one tomorrow morning. So they're going to be gathering the information. Mark, what we know right now is that it can gain intensity as it makes its way closer to the U.S. Something you talked about. That cone, some of it interacts with land, which could mean a weaker system. Some of it keeps it over water the whole time, which could mean a stronger system.
Absolutely. So we want to go through what the models are seeing and really run the gamut here. What's the low end of the models? What's the best case scenario versus what's the high end of that model gamut, and what should we really be worried about? What do we need to prepare for just in case? And so let's start out by looking at the U.S. GFS model. This is one of the global models that we look at for all kinds of weather, but including the tropics. The timing here brings our storm towards Puerto Rico by Saturday, starts to go through the islands of the Bahamas into the central Bahamas by Monday, across South Florida, tangling with the west coast of Florida, and then eventually the Panhandle and much of the southeast with a slow approach Wednesday into Thursday. There are still significant differences when you look at the European model. The European model output starts off similarly, comes towards Puerto Rico, maybe a little bit farther north and a little bit less organized still by Saturday. And that disorganization continues through much of the islands of the Bahamas into Sunday, so it's a little bit faster at this point. Starts curling Monday into Tuesday into the Gulf, and then we start getting organization right on the doorstep of the Panhandle, maybe into Alabama, and a very slow movement from there. Slow is going to be the theme here for both of these tropical entities. No matter what they turn into, the models are starting to pick up on this idea that high pressure will build into the north and stop both what is currently TD13 and Tropical Depression 14 from moving much. But those global models aren't the only ones we look at. We also have hurricane forecast models, hurricane focus models. Notice that they go through a path here without many of these other colors on the map. That would be higher shear. It avoids the shear to tear apart the system. The path goes right over some very warm water temperatures, so that these are heat engines, and so they work off the warmer waters. And so those are all in the for column, right, adding up things that could really intensify our storm. And so even as the European model wasn't all that bullish, some of the hurricane models very quickly ramp this up into hurricane status. And so that has to be something that is in the back of your mind. Mike, considering we're up against a weekend, we can't have people turn away and say, oh, well, you know, it's not a big deal, nothing's coming, and then by Monday, it's literally on your doorstep.
Yeah. You know, the thing I'm hopeful, Mark, is because we've got two systems out there, people are really now taking notice. All right, so that was 13. Let's talk 14, because this also could pose a very serious threat. Spinning in the Caribbean right now, 35-mile-per-hour winds with a west movement at 18 miles per hour. It looks like Central America to be affected here. Tropical storm warnings in Nicaragua, in Honduras, eventually we think Belize and Mexico will be affected, maybe quite heavily, especially to the Yucatan Peninsula there in Mexico. That means a place like Cancun. I know a lot of Americans are familiar with that and vacations there, but the water is very warm right now, relatively low shear environment. So if this thing can really get its act together, I think it could, you know, potentially be a very significant player. A lot more convection now encircling the low pressure right now. So it looks a lot healthier than it did, say, just a day or two ago. That's for sure. And if you look at this forecast track, that hasn't changed a whole lot. That is still progressing up toward Mexico, then into the Gulf of Mexico, and eventually you can see on the 5-day forecast there, effects in Texas or in Louisiana. Forecast to be a mid to higher grade tropical storm. Anything can happen once these get into the Gulf of Mexico. We've seen it time and time again. We're pretty confident right now in where it could go because of well in place and established steering patterns right now. So that high pressure really is in control right now, pushing this along. Could break down a little bit toward the end of the weekend, though, and so could that trough that's been plaguing us across the Gulf Coast and the Mid-South. If that breaks down, brings it a little bit farther to the north. If they hold medium strength or even somewhat of the strong strength they have now, could force a little bit farther to the west. So, you know, anywhere in Texas is still in place. Louisiana, we are going to be on guard for threats to your coastline and inland as well. Flights today, flights overnight tonight, and those flights will give us a lot of data. We'll put data into the models, we'll put out, you know, decent amounts of information with all the flights we'll get from both the NOAA planes and the U.S. Air Force planes as well. But we know that increase in intensity is likely. Gulf of Mexico early next week, and then maybe some uncertainty here, Mark, and what could happen with the intensity as it gets closer to land here. But we've said it before, man, sometimes like all bets are off when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. It's almost steamy this time of year.
And there are some signs that we should be increasingly concerned about this if it makes it into the Gulf. The models and the trends of those models are not your friend here. If you're in, you know, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, really watch this one carefully. There are some signs that we could have a rapidly organizing and strengthening storm somewhere near that western side of the Gulf towards early next week. Let's look at the USGFS model again. Interesting trend here that is bringing the center of the swirl towards land and then almost due north. Look at this turn towards Cancun through the weekend. What that does is it takes out all the land interaction that could have been had it been hugging the coast. Instead, goes right over the open waters there, approaching the Yucatan Peninsula, and then continuing into the Gulf with a very warm Gulf of Mexico and a potential for basically unlimited strengthening if that were to occur, as seen by the USGFS model. Then a stalling system Tuesday, Wednesday, and beyond. Okay, so slow motion. We know what that can do near the Gulf Coast states. The European model also, interestingly enough, starting to pick up on these same things. Entangling with land briefly, then going almost due north towards Cancun, before going into the Gulf. Maybe a stronger high-pressure area is as seen by the European model, but look at that, curling towards the Texas coast with a increasingly strong system that then slows down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Strengthening storm system with low shear like we have here. It avoids the shear. That trough lifts off, and we are able to strengthen as it approaches. Also, again, bathtub, if not hot tub water temperature here, that aids in the strengthening. So we start seeing more and more in that 4 column. And, the land might be the only questionable part still. How much land interaction is there? But Alex, interestingly, the hurricane focused models now, whereas earlier today they were all in tropical storm strength, now several of which are starting to bump up into hurricane strength. That trend is one that I would assume will continue even as the current forecast from the Hurricane Center does not bring this to hurricane strength yet.
And the reason we have why we have the Hurricane Center is because you can't, take everything those computer models are putting out as gospel. There is some nuance to it. And Mark, we actually can use some of the examples we've seen in the past, including one already this year, to give us some understanding of why things can change very rapidly once a storm's in the Gulf.
Yeah, and Mike mentioned this too. The Gulf of Mexico is like its own beast. It's got just you're trapped, right? Once a storm system is in the Gulf, there's almost no way that it won't affect people. So that's, number one. Number two, it is trapped by land, and so the waters get so warm, right? There's not a lot of exit, so the waters heat up and heat up and heat up. So if this is a heat engine, as these storms are, the potential is there, especially at this time of year. Hannah was so disorganized, right? Looked terrible as a depression, turned into a tropical storm, still looked mediocre, and then right as we approached land, turned into a Cat 1, and you could argue was approaching Cat 2 strength. As it came in towards land, slowed down, created just an absolute flood event in South Texas. So that's an example of what can occur when these storms get over the Gulf. A little bit of organization goes a long way to just ramp these things up in a big way.
Mark, I wanted to ask you about the forecast track, especially for 14 there. There's still an opportunity that this thing may interact very little with land. What if it has very little or no interaction with land? What impact could that have on the intensity forecast?
Yeah, and you could say that about both of these tropical depressions, land interaction or not. And so the intensity forecast is absolutely directly correlated and tied to the track forecast. We're getting better at the track forecast, no doubt. But that track forecast is so important. If this were to take that southerly, or in this case, southwesterly track, we have land interaction in Central America, land interaction through a large part of the Yucatan Peninsula, and then finally a shorter path through the Gulf, although there is plenty of Gulf water to still organize this, as opposed to the northern or eastern side of this cone, almost no interaction at all with Central America, almost no interaction with the Yucatan Peninsula, and staying over the waters of the Gulf. You could look at TD13. If we go to the south here, we're going over some of the biggest mountains of the Caribbean. Hispaniola into Cuba, huge mountain chains disrupt a tropical system. Or you go to the north and there's none of that interaction. You have a much stronger storm system. So again, I think the models are starting to pick up on that very thing and starting to kind of ramp up that potential for strengthening.
Yeah, it's a complicated art form, truly, forecasting for these. A lot of changes can be expected in the days to come.
All right, well, there you go. Weather Channel himself, meteorologist, man, and that's what is expected. Now, what I did is, obviously the water's warm. Obviously, there's a lot of question about the strength that is going to be on impact and close to impact on these storms. So what I'm doing is I did 850 millibar winds. Now, 500 millibar winds is way high up in the air. That's where you see the cell forms. It's about 15 to 18,000 feet. 850 millibar winds is 5,000 feet. So we can look at next atmosphere level up from our 10-meter winds. Pretty much, jet stream is 300 millibars, but still, if it is strengthening at the next layer up, okay, on the top layer is fighting the jet stream. It just got finished getting past some dry air. But if the bottom is strong to hurricane force and the middle layer shows strong hurricane force, well, then the energy is there for it to stay convective and get some rapid intensification. So as we go through the model, this is what we're looking at now. We'll check them both out. But first we have my opinion, Laura, but we'll see, right? It's a race for the name, whatever. The first storm going by Puerto Rico. It shows the same findings that I found on my channel. You're just going to get some tropical storm winds. That's what the orange is. The dark orange is the high 40s. The red is 50s. For a hurricane, you need, up here in the chart, you'll see it needs to be dark blue. And Cat 2 hurricane needs to be white to the black. Now, as the one going by Yucatan, it looks like it does get up to 50 miles an hour winds. So I don't know if it forms or not right there, because it still looks like a blob, and it looks like it don't have a lot of formation. Looks like it tries before, and then it gets strong to 50 miles an hour winds. That's what the red is. 46. It's not even strong, but it does get stronger. But then after that, it looks like it kind of falls apart a little bit, but it gets strong again. So we will follow that. Let's go back to this one again. Now, as we go past, towards Bahamas, that's where I showed the strengthening before. This is called A-Bears box 1, I believe, and 2 is over here by the Yucatan. Last chance to check before you get rapid intensification. It's the best way that they used to know. Now, it's going to hit south over the Bahamas. That's where you're going to get up to 50 miles an hour winds. Low 50s. Could be a little higher. This is higher off the ground. This is not your 10-meter run. Just showing that there is energy above the hurricane force below. Now, as it gets towards Miami, is where it showed before that it was going to hit. It looks like it is right above it almost, because the center goes right across the below one. That's the update so far, man. It's subject to change every 12 hours, I'm sure. But it looks like it's pretty vertical. It don't look like it's lopsided like it was through the Caribbean. Now, you notice, we'll get to the other one in a second, Marco. As it goes past Tampa, the wind starts picking up. It even gets a little flare up at 8 a.m. on the 25th. Now, this hurricane force winds at the 850 millibar level. That's 5,000 feet in the air. So I bet if I do a run below, and the red are 50s, so let's keep this in mind, all of Florida right here will be in the 50s at this level. But if I do a little lower, I guarantee you're going to see hurricane force winds below. Now, as it gets off at Tampa, it gets another chance to ramp up, and it gets a hurricane force again. That's the same thing I showed in the model. Then again, this is 5,000 feet in the air. So what I'm trying to show you is right before land, it still has hurricane force winds in the 70s at 5,000 feet. So if the ones that are at 10 meters, they're not going to weaken. There will be some rapid intensification in this storm. If it goes towards a 2, I'm not really showing that kind of strength. I did show at the wind gust will get up to 90s. I did show that in my video. Now, as it goes across South Carolina, it really starts pumping up when it gets to North Carolina. Then it goes towards Virginia, gets stronger on the way out, but it does go out. But look at this line. I mean, look at this line of just winds. This is at 5,000 feet level. It's going all up the coast. And it's appearing itself. You can't see it under there because you've seen the regular green, which is like rain wrapped. Then you've seen the tropical storm orange. And all of a sudden, poof, it just shows itself. So this could change. It is still days away. That quick build up could be sooner. And it could be different effects. So we will find out. So God bless all of you. I hope that y'all stay safe. I really mean that. It's kind of slow to play it if I were to play it, but I can show you the impacts for the one going to Louisiana. Now, it does get some strength up after it comes into the Gulf. But as far as a center of circulation, you can see one dancing around right around here. I'll go ahead and play it. That way you can see exactly what's happening with both of them as they come in. Now, as you know, my best part, best way to honor God, is to honor Jesus, because you honor Jesus, you honor the one who sent Jesus. So I want y'all to listen, fellas. There's something I want to say. And we're going to look at Acts of Apostles, Acts 3. Now, let me play this for you so you will see. Now, Peter and John were going up into the temple for the hour of prayer, the 9th hour. And a certain man that was lame from his mother's womb was being carried, and they would daily put him near the temple door that was called Beautiful, in order to ask gifts of mercy from those entering into the temple. When he caught sight of Peter and John about to go into the temple, he began requesting to get gifts of mercy. But Peter, together with John, gazed at him and said, "Take a look at us." So he fixed his attention upon them, expecting to get something from them. However, Peter said, "Silver and gold I do not possess, but what I do have is what I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazarene, walk." With that, he took hold of him by the right hand and raised him up. Instantly, the soles of his feet and his ankle bones were made firm. And leaping up, he stood up and began walking. And he entered with them into the temple, walking and leaping and praising God. And all the people got sight of him walking and praising God. Moreover, they began to recognize him, that this was the man that used to sit for gifts of mercy at the beautiful gate of the temple. And they became filled with astonishment and ecstasy and what had happened to him. Amen. God bless you all out there. I hope you all have a great day. Remember, I do upload daily on my main channel. That's the one I really put my love into. So if you want to see in-depth of these invests/storms, you'll find me there. All right, y'all have a good night. God bless.